in my own mind, the reason I picked toyification as a term is because it feels like everything has become a toy. Your audience are probably smarter than you think they are. They are hyper aware. They're living in the same reality as you are. I think 2026 is going to witness less and less AI talk, I would like to believe,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of us are kind of tired and we all want to see like proof of reality,
Right.
proof of human, proof of real genuine connections. And I don't think AI is gonna achieve that. We want to feel things again, and not like in just an emotional state, but even in our physical world. So I think having those Labubus, having those Stanley Cups, having the J.W. Anderson pigeon bag, we all want
Right.
to like literally touch it, feel it, and know the textures and the smell of it. And this is like the very anti-digital world.
This is the Digital Shelf Insider podcast of Mattress Cart. Creative burnout, brand fatigue, the rise of softness, full of nostalgia, the quiet craving for comfort. What am I talking about here? These are the emotional undercurrents that are shaping how brands behave in 2025 and 2026 and beyond. So we talk about funnels, conversions, performance all the freaking time, but not enough about psychological shifts about why people actually buy. Welcome to the Digital Chef Insider podcast of Mattress Cart. I'm your host Shreshta, and today we are going straight into the heart of culture and design with someone who doesn't just build brands. She studies what people feel before they ever click that add to cart. Nourhan Wahdan, brand strategist, creative director, and co-founder at PEW, is joining us today. And if you would see her vast list of brands and clients and people she's worked with, it goes to Google, YouTube, UN Women, Lipton, Nestle, and so many more. So let's dive in. Hi, Nourhan. Welcome to the podcast. So good to have you here. And we're going to discuss a little bit about, what's been up in 2025, the kind of trends we saw brands were adopting and what the consumer behavior was. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
Hi, Shreshta. Thank you so much for having me on board. I'm super excited to talk about all the things that happened in 2025, but also what's yet to come in 2026. So let's get into it.
Yes. So let's start a little broader. We saw that there was safety, nostalgia, softness. These trends were played along by brands a lot in 2025, or we could probably say that it kind of peaked in 2025. So, and I've read in your post that brands today are kind of serving emotional needs over the functional ones. How does that play out?
So I think you're absolutely right. It did not start in 2025. I think we've probably started noticing this in post-COVID, or dare I say during COVID days, when everyone was kind of stuck at home, everyone was kind of scared, unsure. We were all worried about loved ones, and I think amidst the air of worry and anxiety, there was a gap to be filled there, which kind of is like the comfort of nostalgia and like regressing or kind of healing your inner child more of and taking care of ourselves. So we've witnessed during like COVID days in lockdown, like the rise of like cozy gaming. People who weren't necessarily into video games even started like downloading these maybe mini apps and just tending to their digital farms or households or what have you. And also the Nintendo Switch was launching during that time, and it was selling out everywhere, and it was happening during that time. And I think what we're seeing now is ever since COVID, we've been in a mode of perma crisis in a way where like there was COVID and there was global and geopolitical instability, economical unrest. And I think it kind of started happening with marketing trends and products, and more and more we're seeing like makeup brands that have packaging that looks like food or looks like toys, or people, you remember the Stanley Cup craze when everyone was buying Stanley Cups, but also they were dressing up as if they were dolls. So getting them like these miniature backpacks, these small charms, getting like all the miniature makeup items and putting them in it. So as if like the Stanley Cup is like your doll and you're dressing it up. And I think things started happening from there. And now, as I'm sure you're aware of, the Labubu craze
Oh,
last
yeah.
summer. Yeah.
It's
So
crazy.
I think it was bound to happen, and I think the Labubu wasn't new, right? It's been around, but the reason why it also peaked last summer is because of that like trend picking up and people leaning more and more into like their childhood not nostalgic needs, but like
Yeah.
comfort and safety feeling.
Yeah.
And I think brands that were able to pick up on that early on really won big, especially this year around. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really true. You spoke about this charms and this miniatures as well as obviously the Labubu trends. And the word that stands out in most of your posts is toyification. I guess that's garnered a lot of attention. What is it exactly that's happening with that kind of aesthetic playing out in 2025? And would we see more of it in 2026 or how is it?
All right. So I think in my own mind, the reason I picked toyification as a term is because it feels like everything has become a toy. And when I mention or I say toyification, that is exactly what I mean. So even in our food, right? Like everyone was already obsessed with the rise of Instagram, of taking pictures of their food, as millennials do. But I think even like playing with like coffee latte art where it looks like miniature or mini cats and dogs for your like milk froth, or
Yeah.
like these small charms, and then we witnessed bigger charms where we have a full-size doll hanging from your bag, or even like in the fashion world where you see JW Anderson, the pigeon
Okay.
clutch, or the cake slice clutch, or we've seen it with Gentle Monster and their collaboration with Bratz, and how there
Right.
was a huge comeback for the Bratz doll this last summer as well, or last spring. And basically, that is what toyification is like going towards uh, or producing products or items that look like toys. And I think there's a huge market for them. And I think there was a gap to fill there. And there's like this new section or category of kidults,
Yeah.
as they're called. So kidults are like they're adults, but they're kids. So basically, anyone who's 18 years or older buying toys or yeah, dolls for themselves, not for like their younger siblings or for their children. Um, and I think if I remember this correctly, but around 70% of millennials will buy toys for themselves,
Right.
but also to say yes, we use toys to connect with our children, and I think also the kiddos market is around 30% in Europe, so it's a big market out there, and it's now a category to be acknowledged and to be kind of catered to. So that is what toyification is when you see a lot of items or products or brands integrating play element where they produce things that look like toys. um yeah, that's the best way I can try to put it.
Got you. I mean, I'm just going back to one of the points that you mentioned in the earlier response that it's also much more about catering to our inner child, right? I think that's exactly what's happening with all of these trends playing out here. And we also saw that, brands were coming out with a logo forward design, but it was more of a subtle and softened form that was coming out. So, what exactly is the consumer psychology behind these softer, quieter brand designs and marks here?
Mm. I think in that regard, we're witnessing like again, and I think COVID did attribute to that because we've witnessed a rise of like online purchasing. Um, yeah, a lot of people just buying their stuff online more than just going to the stores. So was a mass consumer consumption kind of syndrome happening where you just want to own all the brands, own all the things, and everyone was buying a lot more than they used to before COVID, I would say. And I think with that, people were more and more aware of who brands were and what they're offering. And then as we've seen the rise of kind of brands like Shein or Temu who are offering like this fast fashion and just get a shirt, wear it 3 times, and then throw it in the bin. I think also with shows like Succession, we've also seen a rise in quiet luxury, and that was also like a trend, but I don't want to say it was a trend as if it's ended, but I feel like people are appreciating more and more what quiet luxury is. And I think that is the same thing that is happening with fashion brands. So with logos, no one anymore wants to kind of wear like a shirt that says Gucci or says like a Miu Miu. More so, they want the quality, they want the fabric, they want the leather of Jacquemus, but they don't necessarily want to have like the logo. I think there's an appreciation of quality of the items and this kind of silent luxury category as well. That's why also fragrances and perfumes have gained a lot of popularity in terms of in terms of trend cycles as well. Even on TikTok, there are these accounts talking about like different fragrances and different notes. So I would say it definitely comes from there. And yeah, I think that is more or less what you can attribute to like these logos and logo design, but also because people have been more and more aware and people are more like uh, they have this logo fluency, if
Right.
that makes any sense. They
Right.
kind of understand and know these brands.
Mhm.
So there's no need to kind of dumb it down for your consumer. They already know your brands. They know what they're getting from the quality. So they're in it because they know what they're getting and their money's worth. Um, so I would say that is where that came from.
Right. I think there's no room for creating more validation with the brand names playing out loud. And uh, let's kind of dissect, the legacy brands as well as the digitally native brands. We see that sometimes legacy brands often have a brand identity of their own already established over the years. And when they try to be fun, it doesn't play out as same as how the digitally native brands get to do it. So where does that gap of cultural literacy kind of exist between these two?
I think when you say cultural literacy to kind of bigger brands or legacy brands,
Right.
what they sometimes think is, okay, let's post a meme,
Mhm.
right? Let's just post about Mudang this last summer, or let's talk about the Labubu Dubai chocolate.
Right.
And I think that is a very surface level way to look at it. And when we talk about cultural literacy, it's more so understanding your audience and what basically their behaviors, their kind of psyche, what are they anxious about, what are they looking for when they're interacting with your brand. And then that is a more sophisticated way to tune into the play element. I would say it's different from brand to brand. But I find a lot of brands really lean into this element of play. I want to say, I think Canva is a great B2B kind of company to take note from. They're always posting like these very colorful, very fun kind of posts, but also they're launching these reports that their user and segment can benefit from. So it feels like more of a dialogue. And this is like, again, it's a B2B kind of company or sector. But if I would say someone who's in more B2C, I want to say Gentle Monster are doing this amazingly. And they've been kind of building their brand up slowly but surely to become this mix between, I don't, it doesn't feel like a total play, but it also feels like they kind of get their audience. And anyone who's wearing Gentle Monster, you kind of, it has like this, if you know, you know, we're part of the same community. We all get it. So they lean into play without making it too tacky. So when they did the Bratz doll, it was kind of still chic. It was kind of, it had that DNA of Gentle Monster with the color palette and the way it launched, even though it was essentially a toy. It's a doll, the
Right.
Bratz doll. But they were still able to kind of put what they already had in it without saying, oh, we gotta collab with Bratz and that's it, and just have it as a collection. And because we've seen that's also happen. But I feel like Gentle Monster is such a good reference for that. I think Poppy also is doing amazing things when we're talking about toyification.
Yeah.
Because Poppy is, at the end of the day, it's a better for you soda category. But last summer when the Labubu craze was on the rise, what they did with their campaigns, they also launched like these Poppy key charms, and they had like sent out like these boxes where you can also have like a Poppy plushie can aside by your Labubu. Um, so I think these are brands that were able to lean into that and play with their audience that made it feel like kind of authentic and not just posting meme on your company pages. And I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, I completely agree and get when you say that, we can't be surface level when it comes to, be relatable to the audience. So when you actually build a culturally relevant identity for a brand, what exactly comes first to you? Is it the audience psyche or the market timing, the symbolism? What works?
I think it's all of the above plus plus. I think brands need to take note of kind of the political climate, the economical climate. Um, we've heard in a lot of like TikTok trends, oh, propaganda I'm not falling for,
Mhm.
or oh, this is a recession indicator, which means your audience are probably smarter than you think they are. They are hyper aware. They're living in the same reality as you are. And therefore, the more you ignore these um kind of hints or like these moments and just say, oh, we don't want negative association or we don't want to lean into that, the more you're alienating yourself from your audience. And I think brands that were able to lean more into that, even subtly, would show again that they get it. And I'm going to reference Gentle Monster once more with their bold campaign, the one with Tilda Swinton, when they had like these models clash together until Swinton like kind of like, oh, be bold. And it was kind of hinting at that anxiety of what is happening in the world.
Right.
And it was kind of a dystopia, but it was kind of cool with the music. It just felt like they understood their audience. They understood what they're kind of going through, but also it's kind of like, we get it,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
without saying like, oh, this is happening and this is why we're launching this product. And I feel like having that understanding of your audience in terms of like what they fear, what they're anxious about, what are their behavioral patterns goes a long way. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of brands are afraid to lean into that.
Yeah.
They're always worried that, oh, if we talk about that, it's going to be negative for our company image, it's going to be negative for our brand image. So you just end up being bland, if I dare say the words.
Right.
And if that makes any sense, yeah.
Right. Interesting points, Nurhan. Definitely agree with you. So if a brand is kind of still operating in that safe and serious identity lane, what would be like the first steps they could take for creating such kind of an emotional resonancy with their audience, without seeing as forced or gimmicky?
Mm. I think it's all about what tools you're using, right?
Mhm.
So if you're a fintech brand, I'm gonna talk like if we're gonna be addressing like financial anxieties, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a fintech brand, you have a few fronts to be using. There are campaigns that you can launch, but there are features that you can also offer to your audience that would help change their material reality, not just as like oh, we're posting and making fun of you spending too much this summer, for example,
Right.
but rather, oh, we're giving you guys cash back because we know how rough this summer is, or we know that y'all bought a lot of Labubus, so now you need the offers that we're yet to give you. So I think there's a lot of ways brands can actually change the material reality of their audiences. Again, if you're a serious brand, then you're probably in a serious sector, which means that you can potentially have more power in changing your audience's real day-to-day lives. And the reason why I say fintech, because I think this is one of the sectors where I feel like we do have brands that can actually change your day to day. So if I get like a cashback offer, or you're offering me zero interest purchases, that is a real material win for me. And that way I relate to your brand a little bit more. Um, so I think that is more or less how more serious brands can lean into that. Not everything has to be like social marketing. Sometimes like these more intimate settings are even better for serious brands to get into that space where you feel like they're just talking to you. Um, so there's a lot of ways to do them, but like you said, you have to be smart and you have to understand these cultural moments and understand how you can leverage them in a way without like exploiting them.
Right.
So it is a fine line, but it takes an empathetic approach to get there, and it's not so hard. Yeah.
Makes so much of sense. So we are recording this somewhere like last weeks of 2025, and when this is up, it's gonna be like, the first month of Jan. So as we move into 2026, everything starts to feel already seen, especially with the AI boom, the kind of AI slop that's out there. So according to you, what do you think makes design feel fresh and really alive?
I think especially with AI and the bubble of AI, and we're seeing it like kind of, oh, it's about to kind of
Yeah.
pop, right?
Yeah.
But I think with an oversaturating of one thing, you would expect the reverse of it happening in the future. So with a lot of AI slop being thrown in our faces, and a lot of like these businesses or companies giving us like, oh, we gave you your AI assistant, or here are AI like your AI image generator.
Yeah.
And with that being the talk of the town in 2025, I think 2026 is going to witness less and less AI talk, I would like to believe,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of us are kind of tired, and we all want to see like proof of reality,
Right.
proof of human, proof of real genuine connections. And I don't think AI is gonna achieve that. And we did see a rise of third places like coffee shops and coffee shop parties, and like people going back to bookstores, and all of this is coming from like the saturation of the AI churn that we've been thrown into, where you again, and it's now getting harder and harder to tell what is AI, and people are going to lean in more into things that are outside of your digital screen and more in physical spaces and more intimate spaces. And I see that also as brands that are going to be able to pick up on that early on are going to win bigger. And that's why also the element of playification or toyification, I think is also important, because the reason why this became a trend as well, and you might know like every influencer out there is like putting the product and doing the like finger tapping and whatnot. It's all because of like proof of like sensory, physical um elements. We want to feel things again, and not like in just an emotional state, but even in our physical world. So I think having those Labubus, having those Stanley Cups, having the JW Anderson pigeon bag, we all want
Right.
to like literally touch it, feel it, and know the textures and the smell of it. And this is like the very anti-digital world. And I think 2026, we're going to see more and more of that. I already see a lot of brands doing a lot of pop-ups and like making sure they exist on ground, and a lot of fashion and makeup brands are also integrating like more sensory experiences with like I think Lineage just produced the cosmetic kind of line for this winter, and it's all like hot cocoa with like small toys of like hot chocolate or marshmallows, and it's all like highly sensory. And I think that is what people want at the moment. They want to smell things, they want to touch, taste, and also feel things. I think that's going to continue to happen and grow significantly in 2026.
I completely agree with you, Nurzan. And not just that, it's a need of the hour. And we really need to go back to, before the AI thing started. So thank you so much for joining us, Nurhan. It was such a wonderful conversation with you. I mean, great, great brand examples, something that our audience can really learn from too. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a delight.
That was Nourhan for you all. And if this episode changed the way you think about emotional design, that's exactly why we wanted it here. Because the brands winning today aren't just visually sharp, they are psychologically accurate. We kind of did this deep dive into toyification, softer marks, cultural literacy, and how freshness is becoming harder to capture. Nurhan has a rare ability to kind of articulate what most founders and designers only sense. Thank you for joining us and listening into Digital Shelf Insider. If this conversation sparked something, share it with someone who's building their brand story. See you in the next one.